So hi and welcome to the March edition of the Antisocial Socialites audio events. As you know, we talk all about networking in non-traditional ways, and we're really delighted to have a fantastic speaker joining us today. So in today's session, we're talking about, could networking be a playground, not a stage? So what we'll be talking about is all about how curiosity, play, and small moments of wonder could turn networking icks into genuine human connection. So welcome if you're joining us new to the Antisocial Socialites audio events. Great to have you. And also if you're a familiar face in the audio room, great to have you here. So pop in the comments, say hi, tell us where you're joining from, what your weather's like. There's still a bit of spring sunshine here after the cloudy weekends here in London. So before we dive in, let's meet the team. So here today, I'm Liz Hamlet. I'm the co-founder of the Antisocial Socialites and the founder of Spark Succeed. So I'm a certified business strategist, coach, and ideals wrangler for people who work alone but don't have to think alone. And I've helped thousands of solopreneurs and founders to take their brilliant idea from stuck to launched and making money. And I'm here today with my co-founder, Yolanda, who's going to say hello in a minute, to lead today's conversations with a very special guest. So today we're joined by creative consultant and speaker, Lucie Lincoln, who's going to share some mini strategies and help you remind yourself that networking doesn't have to be so serious. So Lucie, do you want to unmute and just briefly do an intro to you?
Yeah, hi, thank you so much for having me, Liz and Yolanda, on Antisocial Socialites. So I'm Lucie. I am a writer, communicator. I host a podcast called Almost Grown Up, and I am obsessed with the idea of play and how we can bring the kind of wisdom that we had as children, especially around play and wonder and curiosity, and bring them back into our adult lives as a tool that we can use to help us with just being an adult, because it's a challenging thing to be sometimes. So yeah, I'm really excited to be having this conversation. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. And yeah, I've had the luck of working with you before. So I'm really excited to delve into this topic in a bit more detail, particularly around networking, because it can feel quite serious. So I'm going to pass over to Yolanda, who's just going to share a little bit more about the Antisocial Socialites before we dig in.
Thank you so much, Liz, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon. If you're joining us from anywhere around the world, make sure to add in the comments and let us know where you might be joining us from. We'd love to find out. We're always so surprised when we have people who are offering their time and their day from all corners of the world. So thanks so much. I am Yolanda Sissing, as Liz pointed out. I am also the co-founder of the Antisocial Socialites. My other job is that I am an ethical social media marketing strategist and the founder of Pink Leaf Social. I'm all about empowering visionary, purpose-driven business owners to rise above the noise on social media and make a meaningful impact that is good for people and the planet. And today I'm so excited that we are going to have a chance to sit down and talk about play, because I think that is one of the greatest elements around our ethos around Antisocial Socialites, is to develop networking strategies that work for you. And all of you in the room here today are part of a growing community of thousands of antisocialites who are looking to build lasting connections and do that outside of the networking rulebook. So who are we? What is it that we do as Antisocial Socialites? What we are here to do is that we're on a mission to create a space for people who find traditional networking just doesn't work for them, people who have been stuck behind those 60-second pitch slaps. We want to help you find networking opportunities that work for you. And how do we go about doing that? Well, as of 2026, we're hosting quarterly LinkedIn audio rooms. We have in-person events, one of which are just coming up next week, which we're quite excited about and we'll share later on today, across a range of topics for people who struggle through conventional networking. You will also find out more about who we do, what we do through our LinkedIn page, which you guys are joining us via today. make sure to check out the comments, because we have included a list of ways that you are able to get in touch with us. The first, which we're very excited and proud to share, is our paid community called the Antisocial Lounge, which includes really interesting new and emerging strategies around networking, helps people to build and experiment on the kind of networking that works for them. We have resources, we've got guides, we've got masterclasses, and we've got sponsorship packages, which we have included in the comment section. So make sure to check that out and click through. If you want to stay in touch with us outside of social media, we have got a mailing list where we invite people to subscribe to, and those on our mailing list will get a special discount to our online shop, and you'll find out first about all the cool things happening in the Antisocial Lounge community. Again, the link to that is in comments. So it's almost time for us to hear more from Lucie. But before we do that, if it's your first time with us here today, I'd like to make sure that you are able to get involved in what we're talking about. So for those who are regulars, welcome back. For those joining us for the first time, I'll walk you through how to experience a LinkedIn audio room today. We are a very friendly bunch. There is no such thing as stupid questions, no such thing as stupid comments. So feel free to dive in the comments. We'll be checking them out throughout the course of today's discussions. And if there's any questions or experiences that you'd like to share, we would love to hear from you. So you may find that there are react buttons on your screen as part of this event. That's the best way to let us know how you're feeling about the discussions today. So if you comment using emoji buttons, let's give it a bit of a test, shall we? Drop a thumbs up if you're joining us for the first time. And if you're back joining us again as a regular, thank you so much for coming back. Do give us an applause with the clapping hands emoji, and we'll be able to see that appear on screen. If you're doing that today live, fantastic. Even if you're doing that later at some point, we'll still be able to see it. So thank you so much. If you'd like to connect with other people, because, like I mentioned, this is a form of networking, the easiest way to do that is to click on the networking tab on the events page, and you'll be able to see everyone who has joined. And feel free to connect with those who are with us today. Don't forget to share that you are enjoying this room. You can tag us in any content that you share, or you can use the paper plane emoji or button to send and invite other people to join you here today. Whatever we don't answer as part of today's discussions, please do comment, and Liz and I and Lucie will be able to respond after this event has taken place. We also make sure to include any information or key learning points in our later edition newsletter. So again, if you're on our mailing list, you'll be able to get that in straight to your inbox. And so just before we start asking our first question, what we'd like you to think about is how you have either brought more play into your networking experience, or how you could potentially bring more play into your networking experience. And Lucie will share some of what that means in a minute. But have a think about that. What does that mean? What does that feel like for you? Make sure to share it in the comments, and we'll be able to continue those discussions now. So I'm now going to hand over to Lucie and to Liz.
Lovely. Thanks so much. And yeah, we're particularly excited about this topic, Lucie, because as you know, we're all about not feeling like a square peg in a round hole when it comes to networking, and feeling like you have to force yourself into those very traditional networking events. So we know that you're a passionate advocate of play for grown-ups. And so can you tell us a bit more about what that means and why it matters?
Yeah, of course. So I think play for me has been a huge energy shifter, and exactly what you were saying, Liz, about that feeling of being a square peg in a round hole. I think play is this kind of huge permission slip to look at that differently. And for me, play and this idea of bringing play back kind of started a couple of years ago. I was going through a particularly challenging time in life, and I had this moment where I just really had this day where, when you're just like, oh, there's no coming back from this. Whatever noises were in my head, it was broken through by seeing this little pink ball the kind of ball that you go in a ball pond on the street. And I started kicking it back and forth with my friend. And just by doing that small action bit by bit by bit, we started to change the conversation we were having. A little bit of silliness got introduced, and I started to move out of this voice in my head that was telling me certain things about the way things were and that what that was going to mean forever and ever and ever and ever, and start to think about just being in that moment, and also the fact that you didn't know what was going to come up and surprise you. So I kind of always thank that pink ball for being there on the side of the road. I was actually walking to Battersea Power Station, so I don't know if you know that part of London, but it's probably not where you'd expect to find a pink ball. So yeah, I'm hugely grateful for that, because that was kind of the start of me going, oh, there's something here in that. What happens when I move into a state of play and arguably silliness is I give myself permission to see things differently. And I think that is really the superpower of play, is it is kind of this permission slip to experiment and to get curious and to see where things go. And when you think about the role that play plays in our early life, like I'm kind of in the middle of this huge, wonderful experiment of having a 2-year-old son, and watching him learn the world through play is been such a reinforcer of this idea, in that play is how we learn to walk, it's how we learn to talk, it's how we learn to eat, it's how we learn to connect with other people. And it's such a fundamental way, like part of the way that we understand and learn the world. It sometimes feels kind of madness that we stop doing it, but of course we do, because play is so often positioned in opposition to seriousness. And when we get older, at a certain point, we want to be taken seriously. We have ideas, we have things that we want to do in the world, and we don't want to be treated like a child. We want to have take ourselves seriously, have other people take us seriously. And so often we let go of that playful side of ourselves, or that slightly silly side of ourselves, and only let it out in certain circumstances that we deem to be like appropriate. But because it's such a core tool for us to learn, and particularly to connect, which I think is what's so relevant for today's conversation, that I think it would be a shame to leave that as something we did in the past, when it offers us so much opportunity to connect and look at ourselves a little bit differently as well, I think. So for me, it is that permission slip to not know where you're going, to be able to get it wrong, and to be curious. And I think if we can offer ourselves that lightness and go, okay, I wonder what could happen in this situation. I wonder who I could meet. I wonder what that's going to feel like when I do that, rather than worrying about the preordained outcome that we think could or could not happen, and instead go in with that state of curiosity, and also the lightness that probably whatever happens, it's going to be okay, or we'll figure that thing out, or actually we might find that it's really incredibly fun. And I would just love more of us to be able to wake up in the morning and go, okay, just for today, I'm going to give myself a little bit more permission to play and to be curious and see where it goes.
Yeah, and I love that. I don't know if it was in your session, Lucie, or whether, it's if you gave children, like, say you gave a child a toy hammer, they would think of, hundreds of different ways of using it, and it would be a car and it would be something else. And, in adulthood, we are conditioned to just look at things in a certain way, that it's a toy hammer, we're going to use it to hammer a nail into something. But, I love that curiosity and the power of it actually changing your state and changing your creativity. And yeah, we're really interested in how that could sort of move into networking. So I'm going to pass over to you, Yolanda, because I know you've got a good question on this.
Yeah, I think I was listening quite intently to what you're saying, Lucy, and one of the things that you were saying about the struggle that people have around showing up professionally and wanting to be taken seriously, and how that can come at the expense of doing things, as you say, more lightly and with more curiosity. So I wonder how do you feel? How do you think the philosophy around what you've been saying around play could help to take the pressure off for people who may struggle with networking?
Mm-hmm. So first up, I want to say that I have never felt like a particularly wonderful networker. So if you feel like that, I think quite often something to remember is we all often go in feeling a bit nervous about something, or if we've not done it a lot, it can feel difficult and scary. And I think that's one way in which we can start using play to think about networking differently. I mean, when we were talking about the name of this session, it was moving that idea of it being a stage to being a playground, and just that shift of going, oh, I'm not here to perform, I'm not here to give a particular role of this is what, you know, for example, this is what Lucie is like talking to Liz and Yolanda. I'm here to explore and to see where the conversation could go and to be surprised, hopefully surprise myself. And once we shift into that realm of like, I'm not here to be the performer to all these other people, I'm here to play with them, to see what we can create together, I think it shifts the dynamic from feeling like you need to turn up as a certain thing and not make any mistakes or stumble over your words or not miss that kind of elevator pitch moment, and instead just say something that you think is maybe in reflection inane or you wish you'd not said, because all of those are opportunities to just see what happens, to experiment, to get maybe we get a different reaction as a result, maybe we connect with somebody in a different way. And I think that taking the pressure of having to be a certain thing and knowing what we need to be going in, and instead stepping in with curiosity of, I wonder what could be, I wonder what we could create. And I don't know, right now I've been really thoughtful about how our humanness is such a joyful way to connect, and play and silliness are one of those great things that really help us connect as humans. So actually stumbling over your words and being a bit imperfect, maybe it's just a sign of your wonderful humanity, which somehow in an age of AI might actually be a bit of a superpower. So I think trying to just reshift the way that we see it and allow ourselves to have a bit of lightness, I guess, that sense of nothing is all or nothing. It's all just an experiment and a curiosity to see where we where we could go from there.
Yeah, I think it's curiosity is one of my favorite values when it comes to networking, when it comes to your business. So I'm excited to hear you say that. But Lucie, we know you've obviously worked with corporate clients, you've worked with lots of different clients in your work, and I'd love to know, what difference have you seen from clients who you've worked with who have introduced more play into either networking or their businesses? What are the sort of outcomes of that?
So yeah, I think there's definitely something in, for me, the big ones are connection and creativity. And I think, for example, when you get people together in a room and all of a sudden you introduce them to a playful task, and for example, improv games, I don't know how familiar people will be with improv theatre and the way it's set up, but a lot of those types of games and exercises are all promoted to kind of creating something together in the moment. And some of those techniques can be really useful, and I use them sometimes in my workshops, or we do mini exercises with people just to start to loosen a little bit the persona that we feel we need to turn up to work in, and allow ourselves to think differently. Because part of, I think, what can get us trapped as teams and as individuals in those teams is the way we think about our role within them. We're the person that does X, for example. And so it's our job in that meeting to make sure we've done that. And that can be hugely grateful, and it can help teams run, but sometimes we can lose our connection in those moments. And I've worked especially with teams that either work remotely or that, for example, have been going through maybe transition, and that disconnect happens because we've not had a chance to get together and play. And when we do, I think what happens in those rooms is people start to suddenly see, okay, so my boss or the team leader here is also on the same, they're playing with me in this, and they get to step out of that role of being the person that does X, Y, and Z, and instead, you know, be the person that draws this upside down apple shape and then connects it to somebody else's, I don't know, giant grapes or bananas to build a creative fruit bowl. Sorry, this is just completely off the top of my head. But the idea is that when people play together, I think they start to connect in different ways because they step out of the roles that they've decided they need to be in and step into the curiosity and possibility and ability to experiment with each other. And then when we play together as well, we also tend to feel safer with each other, because once we enter that space of play and agree that we can kind of, those are the rules and we can all do this and we're allowed to be a little bit silly, we build safeness, we build more kind of security within each other. And that in and of itself can really boost team creativity, because what you see after that is all of a sudden saying the silly idea doesn't feel that bad, because you said a million silly ideas in that room just there. For example, me talking about a giant fruit bowl that doesn't make any sense, but I've said that now. So maybe the next idea that I think actually could have something to it that I might before have gone, oh, no, they'll have discarded that for a reason, I won't say. But in this environment, now I've played with those people, we've interacted in a different way with a different energy, and all of a sudden I feel slightly safer to go and say that thing. So I think it gives that permission slip to people. And I know I keep coming back to that, but in some ways entering into that state of play really is as simple as saying, I'm going to allow myself to do this.
I quite like that, because we often talk about like forced fun, isn't it? People who feel pressurized to do things like icebreakers, for example, but part of it is dismantling some of the uneasiness of having to go and act in a certain way when it comes to introducing yourself or speaking to new people. It's trying to disable that sense of uncertainty, because everybody will look foolish, and that's allowed. So I think I love what you were saying there about people feeling safer in those environments. And certainly I know with my work around social media, the posts that often connect most with people are when people are being vulnerable, when they don't show up as picture perfect all the time. So I can 100% relate to what it is that you're saying. It's something that we try to do as part of the Antisocial Socialites as well. All of our events that we host are non-formal, sort of activity-based events or meetups that people can come along to, because there's a shared experience that people can build on while they're networking. So you're not seeing it as a forced, boring, bland, fun day out of the office. So yeah, thank you for that. So just something else that you've touched on, which I think will be really helpful to give some advice to people in really practical terms. Are there like one or two mini strategies or tips that you can share with people on how they can be more curious at networking events to build that connection and tap into that creativity that you've mentioned?
Sure. So I think one really practical step, and I actually advocate this for kind of life in general, is doing warm-ups. And I know it sounds a bit random, but as I'm very interested in the creative process and how people tap into that creativity, because I think it's very aligned with play. And often you see artists and creatives doing some sort of build up before they step into doing the work. And I think so often in life, we just launch straight into the thing that we're doing because we're not kind of set up to have this routine around it. And when it comes to stepping to a space with play and with curiosity, so much of it is the energy that you bring. And sometimes the room will create that energy for you, but sometimes you need to kind of create that energy for yourself before you're going into the room. So if you don't control the networking room and the environment you're going into, then a great way to be able to enter in this state of kind of play and curiosity is to give yourself a mini warm-up. And by that, I mean things like it could be as simple as sitting and doodling something just to free your mind and let a bit of your creativity out, maybe whilst you listen to something that gives you some energy, or maybe you have a mini dance party. You just take yourself to the toilets before, put your headphones in, do a little dance if that's something that feels good to you. Sometimes if I'm really nervous about something, I'll give myself, I'll create a mini character in my head who just embodies the thing I need to be, whether that they embody curiosity, they embody confidence, they embody fun and silliness. And I'll voice note as them giving myself a little pep talk, and then I'll listen back to it. And that is incredibly silly. And I understand that the idea kind of feels a bit pointless, but the goal is, I think, that we embrace this kind of slight silliness as a doorway in, because that's kind of what we're looking for. And again, if you need to, write yourself your own permission slip and stick it up on the wall before you go somewhere. Write it just on your phone, so you've got your as a screensaver. Put it in your pocket, and on the way to networking events as well, because sometimes nervous energy lives in our bodies. To kind of access that more playful curiosity side, we can play around with the way we move. And if you, especially in London, but in a lot of places, nobody's really watching how you move around a city. So if you want to hopscotch a few kind of street paving streets and get yourself in a playful mood by doing that, or like imaginarily pick somebody ahead of you and see if you can catch them like to the crossroads or something, that can also be really fun and just a way to get yourself physically into that state of play. And then the other tip or idea that I think I would give is to gamify networking a little bit for yourself. So when you walk into that room, like give yourself little imaginary points when you find something interesting about somebody. Like you go and search for a specific thing. Maybe you want to get a point if somebody shares a recipe with you, or maybe you want to give yourself points if you find out a random fact that you don't think you would have found out from their LinkedIn or from, engaging with them in a different setting. And just giving yourselves those kind of like, make it into a game a little bit, to be like, could I be ask a different type of question this time, and I get a point for every different type of question that I ask, to kind of just experiment and see what happens. Because rather than thinking that every networking event is something we have to turn up perfectly to, it's like every networking event is an opportunity to explore how I like to be around other people and how I like to connect with them. And if you really dread stuff, the other thought I had, which I have done for myself in the past, is like give myself a special star for every awkward moment that I survive through. Because sometimes in your head you build up that, I've stumbled over this word that I've said and now I look silly. And you build that up in your head as something that everybody else has taken away. Whereas if you just give yourself a gold star for not having somehow magically kind of like been gobbled up by the earth and have everybody turn around and point and laugh at you, then you're like, okay, cool, I survived that. And I genuinely would advocate for buying little gold stars and sticking them in a notebook for yourself. So it's not just a gamification that you do in your mind, but it's something you can see and go, hey, I did that. I survived those awkward moments. I asked some interesting questions, kind of go me, Sorry, that was quite long.
No, we would definitely have quite a few stars for awkward moments, I think, hence why we created the Antisocial Socialites. But yeah, there's so many points there that you raise. And I think, actually pointing out that it's normal to feel that nervous energy, even if you're a seasoned networker. And I know another thing that you did with us that's a really good exercise there, if you're on the train or on the bus and feeling a bit anxious, you did the sort of scribbly where you sort of do like circles and scribbles, and then you try and pick out things in your scribbles. So, there's a duck and there's a TV or something, and just anything to sort of distract yourself from that feeling. So yeah, I think that's so many points. Lucie, we could speak about this for forever, but I think what I love is your different take on it, recognizing that sometimes these are difficult moments, but actually adding in that element of play and shifting your state a little bit when it comes to networking. So thank you so much for sharing all those moments. So just a bit of a wrap up. If you're on our mailing list, you'll get our after edition email with the recording and also any points, sort of key points that were raised in the event. Just a reminder of those exercises that Lucie shared. And we're briefly opening the doors to our paid membership community this month, the Antisocial Lounge, to delve a bit deeper into networking non-traditionally in a way that suits you and having some fun and honest talk and live sessions. You can check out the link in the comments for that. If you're not on our mailing list, you can also access discounts to our online resources and masterclasses. We've literally just sent an email out this morning saying we've got the last 10 spaces available for our Antisocial Saunter in Regent's Park in London on the 19th of March. They've been super popular last year, so we're really excited to be bringing them back. And the weather looks rain-free so far, so long may that continue. And we'll be running our next quarterly audio event on Monday, the 11th of May, we've got the wonderful Gina Knight joining us from Flatiron, talking about networking as an ambivert. So Lucie, if people want to find out a bit more and stay in touch, how can they do that?
So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, obviously, or go to my website, lucielincoln.com. You can find out a bit more about the work that I do. And also you can listen to my podcast, which comes out every 3 weeks on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, basically wherever you listen to podcasts. It's called Almost Grown Up. And yeah, it'd be lovely to stay in contact with everybody. And thank you so much for having me, Yolanda and Liz. It's been such a fun conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lucie.
And just, we're really excited to hear how you're going to be taking these play strategies into your networking in the next week or so. So if you've got a light bulb moment and you want to share it in how you'll be networking slightly differently in a more playful way in the comments. Otherwise, we hope you join us for our next audio event. Lucie, once again, thank you so much. And if you're listening to this on replay, please do share in the comments as well any questions. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Lucie.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.